Dust off your fabric scissors, grab your sewing machine, have a rummage in your scrap fabric stash. I have some fun projects for you. One of them is a NoSew project and the other ones are easy sew, scrap fabric friendly, perfect for beginners. Now let's get into it. Grab your favorite materials, your scrap fabric, whatever you have in your stash, and let's make a NoSew book pillow. For this project you're going to need a pillowcase. It can be an old one. Then you're going to need some fabric to create some pockets. And the most important thing for this project is you're going to be using some hemming tape, also known as Wonder Web or Wunda Web, lots of different names on the market, but essentially it's called hemming tape. You can find this tape easily online, you can get it in your local haberdashery, and sometimes you'll find it in the supermarket aisles. The great thing about this tape is it is machine washable, so if you use this you can machine wash the item that you're making. It's actually really popular for hemming trousers, so a lot of people use this for alterations. Grab your pillow, lay it flat on the table, and you're going to now decide how big do you want your pockets to be. To begin with, I'm going to make one big pocket panel for the front, and I'm going to share how I do a NoSew iron-on version, and you can follow these steps to then make whatever size pocket you decide. You'll see that I'm using a pinking shears or a scalloped edge or zigzag edge scissors. This is optional. If you only have a sharp fabric scissors, then go with that. I find the pinking shears is great at stopping the raw edge of the material from fraying. We're now going to hem one of the top pieces. This is going to be where you slide your hand into the pocket, so we want to have a nice hem on this. I'm folding it over the width of the hemming tape that I'm using, and I'm just getting a nice fold line pressed into the material. I'm then going to insert the hemming tape, and most hemming tape you don't do an ironing motion on it, so you will do it in sections. So you will insert it, you will lay your iron onto the material, and you're going to fuse it for 10 seconds. The hemming tape I used said 10 seconds, but yours might be different, so check the instructions that comes with yours. I'm now ironing the 3 remaining sides, but we're not going to put hemming tape on these because we're going to put these flat onto the pillowcase and we're going to fuse them directly to the pillowcase. I'm folding it over by roughly a centimetre all around, and then laying it onto the pillowcase. For my more advanced people, you could do a miter corner on this, but for beginners, just doing the boxed off corner is perfect. Next bit might seem a bit fiddly, so if you have something like a towel or an ironing mat to do this on a table versus the ironing board, it is a bit easier. Lay your pocket piece on your front piece of your pillowcase and decide where you want to position it. I find it's helpful to find the centre of the pillowcase and work outwards from there. Lay your piece on top, and then you're going to sandwich that fusible hemming tape in between the pocket and the pillowcase. So it's going to be sandwiched in the middle. Then going to grab your iron and following the same steps that you just did to do your hem on top. You're going to apply heat to the hemming tape and you're going to do the 3 sides. The top one will obviously be open because this is where your pocket is going to be, so you'll be able to slide your hand in the top piece. So you're going to fuse the 3 sides to the pillowcase. Depending on the brand of hemming tape that you're using, it can be very tempting to see if it has fused after you have used the iron. Believe me, I do that all the time. But try and wait 10 minutes to see if it has fused, because if you do try and test the hem too early, you might just break off and it might stop it from fusing. So while it's cooling down, it's still working away. So don't be tempted to pull at it when you take the iron off. I am now going to take my really big pocket and turn it into 2. I'm folding it over in half to find the center. And then once I found the center, I'm going to insert a straight strip of that hemming tape, press it in place, and that is going to give me 2 pockets. If you were doing this on a sewing machine, you would just do a straight line of stitching down the center, but we are using hemming tape. We are doing a NoSew version, so this is a great way to create more pockets. If you were doing maybe like a colouring book, or you wanted to put loads of markers and colouring stuff in, you could divide this up into 3. There's so much space. And also, you don't have to do a pillow. You could use a cushion cover. An old cushion cover will be perfect for this. Now it's time to layer on with the pockets with the help of my trusty assistant. A little tip, books, even kids' books, have a bit of weight to them. So if you have too many books in your pillow, I think the idea is to just have one or two so that they can grab their book pillow, snuggle into it, take out the book and have a read. Also, have a few pockets to hide any of their little trinkets. So if you add too many books to your book pillow, something I notice is the weight may cause the pockets to kind of droop forward. So just bear that in mind. I finish adding my pockets. You will see when I style up the pillow, I add in lots of books. Ideally, you wouldn't have as many. I was just doing this to give you an idea of the fit of the books and what it looks like. But if you were gifting this, I'm thinking of my niece for this one. I would just have one or two books in one of the sides so that she can lean on the other side, pick out her book and then read it. Some people find these great for traveling as well in the car. I can imagine her actually sticking her dollies in this. So even though this is titled book pillow, this could possibly become dolly storage. Perfect for traveling in the car. You can snuggle into it or you could pop it into a reading nook. I do have a video from back in spring. I did some tiny IKEA shelves in my niece's bedroom and made it like a little library, so that's where she has her book. So perfect for a reading nook. If they have a little play tent, they could snuggle up inside. Grab old blankies and we're going to make a yoga mat topper / meditation mat, but this can also be used as a bolster and a little headrest if you are doing any breath work or relaxation work, any stretching, praying, whatever you do to relax and unwind. To create your mat, you're going to need 2 blankets. You're also going to need your yoga mat and you're going to use this as a template, but if you don't have one, I'll leave some measurements in the description. Some of my regular viewers might notice this blanket material. I used this blanket for a outdoor cushion and this was the other half of the blanket that I had left over. It's been sitting in my fabric scrap stash, so I decided to use it to make an adorable yoga mat topper. Cut your 2 blanket pieces the same size and then you're going to lay them on the floor with the right sides facing each other. So the pattern side are both facing each other with the non-patterned or wrong sides facing outwards. Before sewing this, I'm going to put some elastics into my mat. These elastics will just hook onto the yoga mat, giving me a bit more grip. But just bear in mind that this mat is more for if you're doing like yin yoga, if you're doing breath work or meditation, if you are doing some handstands and fast vinyasa flows. I don't recommend this. I actually got the idea for this topper from my class because I seen a girl with a lovely cozy topper on her yoga mat and she could roll it up and use it for different things. It was great for support for her knees. So I was like, oh, I wonder where she got that. And then I was like, hey, I think I could make that. You're now going to sew this together, but just leave a gap large enough for you to pull the fabric through. So you're going to stitch all 4 sides, but you're leaving a gap big enough to pull it through. Before turning it through, I'm just clipping the corners and trimming off any excess of bulky material. I'm then going to pull it the right way out and I'm going to iron the seams nice and flat with my iron. There is a couple of ways to close the opening. You could do a hand stitch, you could do a ladder stitch to close the opening, or I simply just did a straight stitch on my machine to close it. Then you can also do a top stitch all the way around the mat. This will give you a nice decorative top stitch, but it will also close the opening as well. absolutely adore this fabric. So I had to cut my fabric to make sure that I had that lovely piece of embroidery. So I cut 2 pieces of fabric, 10 centimeters by 15 centimeters, and I have a front piece and I have a back piece. I did a hem on the top of each piece of fabric. I folded it over 1/2 centimeter and I pressed it with yarn. Then I folded it over again by another 1/2 centimeter, pressed it, and then I did straight stitch on the machine, and I did this to both pieces. I'm all zen. I'm actually sitting on my little yogi shavasana mat. Gonna have a little snoozy snooze. If you are new to sewing, I have a full sewing playlist. I think there's over 40 videos on it. There's a couple of sewing compilation videos as well. So if you want to if you're lacking ideas, we're getting into gifting season. So if you want to make some presents, now is a great time to start making a few. Even if you only make 1 or 2 pieces a week, come Christmas time, you'll have a stash of DIY little presents that you can then gift on to people. As you can see, I used some recycled fabric as well, so don't be afraid, especially if you're a newbie. Have a look in the linen cupboard, even things like tea towels, old t-shirts, old clothes, bed linen. Bed linen is great because a lot of it is cotton or polycotton, and if you are a beginner sewer, that's a good material to start with because it's not too stretchy, it's not too thick, easy to get through the sewing machine. So yeah, I highly recommend. Bed sheets are great, or even old blankets as well. Sometimes things with a bit of stretch, if you are a new sewer, things with a bit of stretch can be a bit daunting, but yeah, go for it. My art teacher said something really interesting this week about kind of creativity. He was saying I'm gonna butcher what he said. Basically, he says when you're frustrated with your art or your project, you're in that learning zone, and that's where the magic happens. So if you can stick with it, and the amount of times I have been frustrated where I have stitched the wrong sides together, took me a long time to realize right sides facing together, not one wrong and one right, and taking the time to unpick when I make a mistake. That frustration middle zone, my art teacher said, that's where you're in the learning zone, and that's where the magic happens. So if you can persevere and carry on with your project, you don't have to finish it in one sitting, you can come back to it. But actually my art teacher did say that. He says no matter how much you're struggling with, you know, a piece, or in my case I'm still learning to draw a drawing, always come back to it. You can start something else, but always go back to it. Don't get into the habit of having unfinished projects. And the thing with sewing is you can come have a cup of tea and come back to your project, problem solve and go again. Whereas with art, there's a bit more faffing with paint and whatever. But yeah, try not to, if you are a beginner and you try a project and you get a bit frustrated, stick with it. I promise the amount of times I've had to unpick. The unpicker tool is probably the hardest working thing in my craft room. I embrace the mistakes. Please share this amongst your crafty community. So if you're part of any, you know, sewing groups or anything and you think that this video will be interesting, please share it to your Facebook group. Sharing is caring, or Instagram, wherever it may be. And also for anyone who's new, welcome. I'll put a link to the playlist. Welcome to the community. Introduce yourself in the comment section. And for my regular viewers, I hope you enjoyed this one. I know not everyone is here for sewing, but I hope you maybe got a little bit of inspiration. Yeah. Maybe you got inspired to make something this week. I will see you in the next video.